Hello everybody and welcome to the Adventures of Drawing. I'll draw a scene for you today using a variety of pencils, a smudging tool, and whatever eraser I seem fit, I deem fit. So without further ado, let's go right into this. Alright, today I've made myself a little sketch beforehand to just have a layout of the scene that I want to draw, so I don't have to start imagining things in the middle of it. And I'm going to lay this out right now so I don't get into any trouble. Okay, we've got a cliff coming down right here, maybe like so. Maybe it stops right here. Well, goes into the landscape right there. Yeah, maybe like that. So from every protruding area right here, we just draw a line that goes down into the land below it. We're going to continue those later. Next thing is I'm going to have my foreground right here, going down there, something cutting in right here, and a layer of the foreground that is a little bit behind that. And then there's going to be a little river coming down right here. First there's another part of this cliff, then there's this part coming down right here, and those parts right there. And shaping a little lake right here. And then there are parts of the land coming into the river down here. It's a little wider here, and then gets narrower back there again. Something comes down right here, some land masses. This one cuts in right there. Then this area of the land overlaps with this part of the cliff, and then the river's not visible anymore. And back there we've just got some random elevations. Okay, so much for the layout. The detail in the foreground is going to come later. Now, first thing I want to do is erase 90% of this line up at the top, since I've realized that maybe I make just the upper 5% of the sky so dark because I have to, or I subconsciously want to adjust it to the first line that I make for the frame. And right now, if I don't have that line, I can make the sky as bright as I want up there, because, well, I could make it as bright as I want anyway, but the line messes with my subconsciousness and makes me think I have to adjust the sky to that darkness. And now, would you look at that? I don't think I have to adjust, and I can pull off a nice sky up there. Okay, let's not go into too much detail down there and just get the sky nice and smooth with the smudging tool. Notice that I always try to overlap that which is behind something else with that which is in front of it. For example, right here, I try to draw outside of the frame always and draw into this cliff. Since if I try to stop right before it, there's always or mostly going to be a little gap. And if I draw into it, then I can later cut this out with the eraser or just draw over it so there's no gap between anything. Okay, now let's have a little cloud back there. Just maybe like so. Just so that something's going on back there in the background. Okay, so the sunlight is going to come from the top left today. So I'll have shadows at the bottom right of everything. Just like with this cloud, I draw some flat U shapes at the bottom right here, and then extend them into the right side of those volumes that I erased the outlines of. Right here, back there, a little bit in here, a little bit in there. And then I'll try to make it nice and smooth, nice and fluffy little cloud by taking the smudging tool and softening up those lines, dragging them into the brighter areas to create a transition from the shadows to the light areas. Maybe let's have a more clear distinction between the lower edge of the cloud and the sky, just like this, going across there with the smudging tool makes the area quite darker. Maybe let's get a second layer in the lower area of the cloud right here, and do that with the smudging tool as well, just using it like a pencil. Okay, make this a little bit more visible. Maybe right here, this area a little darker, and then there we've got our little cloud. Next, I'll go into the background. We've got our horizon line back here, and I make every line that I made in the beginning, I make it dark and leave a light area below it because it's very much in the distance and there's mist separating those layers from one another. Okay, right here where we change the inclination to the sun, this changes, but for the background, that's how we do it. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just indicate the change of this elevation. So right here in the recessed areas, we've got the shadow, and at the front of this cliff that points toward the left side, that's where the sun hits the cliff. So we've got a light area there. So we've got this transition of inclination going like this. And right there we are approaching the midground. So I'll just do this area of the cliff right here with the HB pencil. And the next parts I'll use the 3B pencil for. So for now, let me just make those areas back here appear really misty by taking the smudging tool and extending those lines that I made down towards the next line, leaving a light area below it every time. Just like so. Very misty, very far off in the distance. You can just make out those elevations in the terrain. Maybe extend this a little bit more, make those edges a little bit smoother, but let me get a hard edge right here where there's the next step of the cliff to get a really nice and sharp contrast between the shadow area of the cliff area behind it, and then there's this next area. Now this is really dark and some really hard areas. Let me soften those up a little again, maybe like so, and maybe a little bit more right here though. Maybe like that. Okay, now for the first layer down here, I'll still use the HB pencil. To get some general values down. Here's this area of the land coming in to the river. Maybe there's a little change in elevation right there. Just indicate those with a line. Right here as well, and right there. And we've got this one down here. This one right there, and that one belongs to the midground as well. Just giving them a general value right now. Lighter at the bottom and darker at the top. Okay, and right here, we've got the same thing as for the rest of the cliff, where it's vertical, it's dark, and then it gets lighter towards that edge over there to the left. Like so. And so does this one. Let me quickly erase those lines that are inside of the volume that I made before. Just get rid of those. Let's get rid of the eraser residue. Like so. Okay. Still using the HB pencil, I just continue this for the entirety of the cliff. Going up right there. Right here as well. Maybe even darker here. I'll make it darker anyways with a 3B pencil later, but I can already go into quite a bit of darkness right there. Give it all a little bit of a value with the HB pencil. Right there. Down here. Right here again. Right up to the very top. Now we've got this crease or recess that doesn't go all the way up. So down here, it's going to be darker than right up here. Maybe like so. Going down here. Gotta repeat this a couple of times, depending on how many protruding areas you've got. Get it right there. This area right here. And then there's that one, the last one we can see, which is still much further back than this area of the foreground right here. Couple 100 meters maybe. Okay. Make it darker back here. Maybe like so. Alright. Now I switch to the 3B pencil and make all those areas darker right here in the midground. since the contrast right here is higher than in the background. And now, once I give those areas a darker value, I make sure to leave in some lines to make it have a structure. A lot of lines at the top, so it's still darker at the top, and just a couple down there. This fades into the background right here. Okay. Now, gotta do the same thing or something similar for the midground here in the cliff. Just give the recessed areas a darker value so they appear to disappear behind the next layer of the cliff. Right there. Go in right here with the next one. Up there. This one right here. Make this a little darker. Just the crease. Don't go all the way up here. Just this area down here. Then the next area right here. And maybe a little bit in this area down there. Okay. I want to give those cliffs a little bit more structure, some detail in there. So I'll just draw some lines and cracks coming down from the top. Maybe I cross-hatch some areas where there's a different type of inclination to the sunlight. Maybe a couple of lines down here to indicate some differences in elevation as well. All sorts of cracks up here. Maybe right there. I'll just use the HB pencil, since this is a very light area with an inclination mostly towards the sunlight. Yeah, I tried to make those random, but they look really calculated with the same space in between each and every one of them. Doesn't look too natural right there, but you gotta develop an eye for that, which I don't have 100%. I'm just going along right here with what I think is going to work. Also, those elevations look more like lines of a pencil, not like something in the drawing, but that's what it is. I'm only practicing my technique. I'm far from perfect. Okay, so there we got our midground. Now it is time to draw the water in this river right here. And for that, I'll take the HB pencil and make some horizontal lines in there, leaving an area right here completely blank for the reflection of the sunlight. And down here, where there's no reflection, I just make a lot of horizontal lines. Complete the lines right here. Okay, now using the 3B pencil, I create a water line along all those areas of the land right here that have a shore with the river. Back there, down here, right there, down here, over here. Make a couple of bigger lines down there. And now I make some areas darker and some areas lighter. Still only using horizontal lines. Maybe at a certain point, maybe like midway, you start to see some waves in there. So I'll use the tip of the lead and make some horizontal lines that are much sharper than the soft lines that I made before for the water. Some lines coming in here in the reflection. Some lines in the light areas, some lines in the darker areas. Don't cover it all with waves, since there are areas where the wind waxes the surface of the water, and therefore we can see waves down there. But there are other areas above the water where there's little to no wind, so then we don't see any waves. Okay, maybe like this. Now we'll go into the foreground, and I will once again just get a general value in here with the HB pencil. Now I'm trying to not cross my lines over into the midground, since that is done and dusted, and I don't want to change it anymore. So any line that goes into the midground now is too much in there. If I go right in here, it doesn't matter too much since the midground is really dark right there, so this very light line is not going to be visible. But generally I want to make sure I don't draw into the midground anymore right now. Okay, let's separate the foreground from the midground right there, and then also indicate our different layers in the foreground. And I want the area below each line right here to be darker than once it approaches the next line below it. Don't have to take too much care for that right now with the HB pencil, but now changing to the 3B pencil, I'm going to make sure that the area just below each line right here is darker than once I go more below the line, further below it. Okay, so I'm going down right here, a lot of lines below each layer, and then there are less lines down here to keep this area lighter. Same over here. Back there. Get a nice separation between those layers. And then back here, I've got the same thing. Right there. Okay. Now that's the basic layout for our foreground. I want there to be a couple of bushes that live right there. So I indicate just some sticks. Maybe there's one right here, one down there, one that lives right down here, one back here that goes outside of the frame, and then maybe there's one coming from below the frame in here. And I should have maybe erased the background. Let's see. I'm going to erase just a couple of areas to the left of those sticks to indicate the lighter area of those leaves for the bushes. Down here, the upper area as well. going to be hit by the sunlight, and down there. Okay, since I want a sort of compromise where you can see the background but also have light and shadow in those bushes. So I'll go across those light areas with the HB pencil with my very small zigzag leaf pattern that is not visible very much in front of this background. I should have left that lighter, but well, that's what we got right now. That's what we're going to be working with. Maybe right here I leave a light separation right there between the midground and the foreground. Okay, and then I'll switch to the 3B pencil to create the shadow areas of those bushes. Back here. In here. This little one to the right. That one over here. And then right there. Okay, the last thing I want to do is have a tree that lives right here. So I'll draw a line that's on the shadow side of the tree trunk and then erase the area to the left where there's going to be the light side. Then I'll take the 7B pencil. Wait, let's go in with the 3B pencil first and create this shadow side right there, leaving a light area to the left. And then I'll take the 7B pencil and create a structure in the shadow area, just going up and down. A lot of zigzags, very short movements. Right there. And I'll take the HB pencil and do the same in the light area with very light pressure to the very left and a little more pressure going to the right to create a transition between the shadow and the light area. Right there. Okay. Let's give that tree something to stand on. Some structure in the ground right here. Okay. And then say we can see a couple of branches down there. Something broken off right here. And there's a branch coming down right there. One that is coming down right here. Another one more in the background, coming down from behind it. Then maybe one more right here, and one swinging in down there. Say this one's a very large one, so it's got subdivisions. So does this one maybe, and maybe this one as well. Let's say this one's got some as well, right there and right there. Okay. And then I'll go in with the evergreen pattern right there from the tip of each branch going towards the base of the tree. Down here, up there, and right over here. All right. And that's our scene for today. So let me clean up the edges. Go down right here. Up there, maybe today I'll be able to make a straight line and not go down too much to the right. Same right here. Maybe a little bit more. A little bit more. I think that's it. And now down here. Let's see. I think that's it. Erase all that right there. And then knock off the residue. Gently wipe it off. Okay, there we go. Can you see that like that? Yes, I think you can. All right. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you got something out of the stream. Maybe the motivation to draw something yourself. Maybe some inspiration for a scene, for a motif. Or maybe, just maybe, you learned something from my very amateur and lackluster technique. Maybe you just relaxed or got some other work done while having the stream or the VOD in the background. Whatever you get out of it, I'm totally fine with that. And I think it's amazing that people tune in here and watch what I do. So with all that said, thank you again for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.